Fight fans, welcome to the PBC Podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome, everyone, to the PBC Podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
And I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
Thanks, as always, for tuning in to our show. This week, we've got unbeaten WBA super middleweight champion David Morrell Jr. joining us. Morrell will defend that title Saturday night on SHOWTIME. We'll get into that card in a little bit. Also, undefeated rising prospect Travon Marshall will drop by as well. And in this week's toe-to-toe, Mike and I get a little creative as we list 5 PBC bouts we want to see in 2023. But first, some action last weekend. 3 division champ Vasily Lomachenko ended a near 1-year layoff, winning a tougher than expected unanimous decision over Jermaine Ortiz. Mike, you know I was going to bring this up. What were your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, I kind of laughed when I saw that we were going to discuss your favorite fighter. I think it was an interesting fight, both because we had a chance to see how Lomachenko looked after 10 months away, which was, in part because of the war in Ukraine, and because it was a competitive fight, especially in the first half of the fight. Ortiz is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I would say so. I think he impressed. Ortiz did. I thought his stock went up. But what do you think? I mean, obviously this was a little tougher than most thought it would be for Lomachenko. Does this change your view of him, or do you think he maybe is slowing down a little bit?
To some degree, it does. He looked either rusty or old or both in the first half of the fight, which had me thinking, and I'm sure a lot of other people, that, well, maybe he has slipped a little bit. But I thought he looked much better down the stretch when he more or less pulled away from Ortiz on the cards and won a pretty clear decision. Overall, it wasn't his best performance, which he kind of acknowledged afterward. I'll take his word when he says he needs more time to prepare and that he'll be better than he was in that fight, the next time he fights. Although I'm just not convinced 100%. I think that the Vasily Lomachenko we knew from years past might be gone, but who knows? Let's see what it looks like in the next fight.
Well, supposedly the next fight is going to be against the undisputed champ, Devin Haney. How do you think Lomachenko would fare against him?
So I'll say right here that I feel he has a good chance to beat any lightweight you can name. He has a chance. A decent chance, not like an outside chance, decent chance of beating any light. But that doesn't mean I'd favor him, though, based on what I saw the other day. I think he and Haney have a lot in common, mostly in terms of their boxing ability. They're both just tremendous technicians. The difference is age and size. Lomachenko's a decade older than Haney, and Loma joked that Haney is a heavyweight when they were standing next to each other after the fight. But the size difference really was striking. That was Lomachenko's way of saying, "Listen, I'm not a natural lightweight. This is hard enough." And then he's going to fight a guy like Haney on top of that. So I think it's a tough fight for Lomachenko. And I would pick Haney to win a decision.
Yeah, I think it's a tough fight too. I would add on top of age and size, I'd add skill as well. I mean, look, Lomachenko fought Masayoshi Nakatani, who's a giant at 135, and and wasn't too troubled by that. And plus, he's been campaigning at 135 for close to 5 years now.
That doesn't matter. I mean, Pacquiao was never a welterweight.
Yeah, but he actually was for about 10 years.
Yeah, but he was never a natural welterweight.
Well, no, I mean, not a natural welterweight. But look, Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis, 2 guys I want to get into. They're not. They started lower divisions as well. Both at 126, actually. I just think that those guys are just so skilled. What about Shakur? How would he fare against this version of Lomachenko?
It's a similar situation. Stevenson is another superb boxer who's a decade younger than Lomachenko, although he would be moving up in weight from 130. So I'm just sort of guessing that the size factor wouldn't be so pronounced in that fight. Although I don't think Stevenson's a small guy either.
Yeah, not at all. He looks like someone that could go to end up at welterweight at some point.
So I think that, again, based on what I saw the other night, I'd go with Stevenson in that fight.
What about last person, Mr. Davis?
The same. Davis is an excellent boxer, with more power, much more power actually than Haney and Stevenson. He probably has more power than both of them combined. My gut tells me he wouldn't stop Lomachenko though. I think in that fight, we'd see Davis at his best in terms of his skill set, which I think maybe is a little bit underappreciated.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think he wins the decision too. I have to add one more time though. I wouldn't sleep on Lomachenko. Again, I'm going to take his word that he's got more in the tank than we saw the other night. Great fighters sometimes have ways of surprising you, and I know you don't agree, but I think he has been a great fighter, so we'll see.
Oh, I think he's a great fighter. I don't think he was ever top 3 pound for pound, but I think he's a great fighter. And look, if he were to beat Devin Haney, I mean,
he's back where it was.
He's back. Shoot, better than that. Quite frankly, I think all 3 have a chance to stop him. I just don't think. I think Tank is the only one with the temperament. When it comes to Haney and Shakur, I mean, they're comfortable winning 12-round decisions. Although I think like Haney would just keep him, on the end of that stick. That
right.
Shakur would do the same, but I could see more trading between him and Davis. And
fun fights, wouldn't
fighting,
it?
Yeah. Oh, great fights. Hopefully we see them. I don't think he's going to get past Haney either, but hopefully, we see it. And no matter what, good to have Lomachenko back in the mix, especially given what he's gone through over the past year. And with that, let's jump right into the PBC fight of the week. This Saturday night at the Armory in Minneapolis, Minnesota, undefeated WBA super middleweight champion David Morrell Jr. takes on unbeaten mandatory challenger Aidos Yerbossynuly in a 12-round title bout. It's a tripleheader live on Showtime beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll kick this segment off with the essentials.
Okay, here we go. Morrell is all of 7-0 with 6 knockouts, 5-0 obviously in his last 5 with 4 KOs. His last fight was in June. He scored a TKO in the 4th round over Calvin Henderson. He's got an 86% knockout ratio, which is actually probably one of the best in the sport, although it's only 7 fights. He's only had 27 pro rounds, but he had like 1 million amateur rounds. Yeah. So that makes up for it. 24 years old, turned pro 2019. He's a southpaw. He's pretty tall, 6'1". He's got a really long reach, 78.5 inches for that weight class is pretty long, I think. Lives in Minneapolis, but was, cut his teeth in boxing in the Cuban amateur system. Yerbossynuly, I think that's as close as we're going to get to correct pronunciation. He's 16-0 with 11 knockouts, 5-0 in his last 5 with 3 knockouts. His last fight, Lennox Allen, he stopped him in 10 rounds in September of last year, which is his last fight. 69% knockout ratio. He has 86 pro rounds, 30 years old, turned pro in 2015, fights from an orthodox stance. He's 5'11 and a half, a little bit shorter than than his opponent. But get this, he's got a 71.5-inch reach according to BoxTrack. That's 7 inches less than his opponent. So I think that could be a big advantage for Morrell. And he lives in Las Vegas, but he is proudly from Kazakhstan.
It's interesting. They have a common opponent in Lennox Allen, who Morrell went 12 rounds with, and as he just stated, Yerbossynuly stopped in 10 rounds last year. Who is Yerbossynuly? What can you tell us about him?
He's what many of us think of when we think of fighters from Kazakhstan and other Central Asian countries, I think. He's a rugged, durable guy who comes to fight, every time he steps through the ropes. He has heavy hands. I went back and watched the fight that you just mentioned, that Lennox Allen fight, and that really stood out to me. He's not a crude fighter, though. He can actually box, just not as well as Morrell can box. I think Yerbossynuly is good, which is why he's highly ranked.
But is he a serious threat to beat Morrell?
I think he is. It depends how you define serious threat, but I think he's a legitimate opponent. I think Morrell is what I call a thoroughbred, a guy with elite talent and athleticism. I like Yerbossynuly, though. He's the kind of solid all-around guy who can give, even a really good fighter's trouble. So I expect him to give Morrell some trouble, but maybe just not enough.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you. I kind of see where your prediction is going. How do you see the fight playing out?
I think Morrell outboxes him, but he'll have to work hard to do it, though. I think Yerbossynuly is going to keep trying hard until the very end, and I think he's going to come up short and lose a decision.
Yeah, I think it's a good step up fight, the kind of Morrell needs. I think it's a dangerous fight, but Morrell looks so polished at such a young age. I think he wins a 12-round unanimous decision in a competitive battle, one that maybe we'll look back on, down the line and give him a bit more credit for. Now, in the co-feature, former unified 154-pound champion Jason Rosario, who's now fighting at middleweight, takes on Brian Mendoza. Mike, it's been a while since we've seen Rosario on U.S. TV. What has he been up to?
Well, he went back to his native Dominican Republic to sort of pick up the pieces after his knockout losses to Jermell Charlo and Erickson Lubin, which sort of made us forget about his upset stoppage of Julian Williams before that. Rosario has 3 knockouts in his last 3 fights, all in the Dominican Republic, but I haven't heard of any of his opponents. So I think it was just sort of him getting his head where it needed to be and getting the losses behind him, that kind of thing. I still think the talent is there, but we'll see what he has on Saturday.
Yeah, he was originally slated to face Joelvis Gomez. Gomez obviously pulled out with an injury. What can you tell us about this new opponent, Brian Mendoza?
So Mendoza is a skillful, quick-handed guy, as we saw early in his fight with Jesus Ramos in September of last year, if you'll remember. It took a while for Ramos to figure this guy out. Once he did, Ramos took control and sort of won going away. Maybe that exposed Mendoza's limitations, although I'm sure, he also learned from that fight, so he's probably a better fighter as a result of that. And he took this fight on 10 days' notice. You mentioned that he's a replacement for Joelvis. This is a really tough assignment for him.
Yeah, it certainly is. How do you see the fight playing out?
I think Mendoza might give Rosario some trouble, particularly in the first half of the fight. I think he's that good of a boxer. The one thing that Rosario has over Mendoza, though, is his power. I think Rosario is going to land some heavy shots in the second half of the fight, probably wear Mendoza down and either win a clear decision or stop him late in the fight.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going with Rosario. I'm playing it safe this week. I'm going with Rosario by decision. I could see a late stoppage here, but it's been a while since I've seen him in the ring. So kind of curious to see what he has left or what he's got, what more he has to offer. Now, there is more middleweight action in the televised opener. Undefeated Fyodor Cherkessin taking a step up in class against longtime contender Nathaniel Gallimore in a 10-round bout. What do we know about Cherkessin?
I think it's Circassian, but anyway, it's another difficult one. We always do our best. Actually, I didn't really know much about him until I did a little bit of research. So he has a martial arts background. He reportedly had 350 Muay Thai fights before he decided to turn to boxing back in 2014. So he's been doing this for 8 years. I think he's come a long way the past 8 years. He turned himself into a slick, poised boxer. He looks like he really belongs in there. I think that's because the guy he's got a lot of talent, and I think he's put in the work. He doesn't have unusual power, but I think he keeps you honest with his punches. So I really like this guy. I think he's good.
Well, Gallimore is a big step up in class. You mentioned his background. Is he ready for a Gallimore?
I guess we'll see. You're right. This is a significant test for him. Gallimore, has lost most of his biggest fights, but he knows what he's doing in the ring, and he can hurt you. He's got a lot of power. Remember, he stopped Jason Rosario once upon a time, so he can hurt
Indeed.
you, at any moment. So, it's a step up in class, but I think the guy's good. I think he's ready for it.
I like it. How do you see the fight playing out?
I think Circassian is the more talented boxer. I think he outboxes Gallimore if he can avoid getting hurt, which is a significant if. I wouldn't be surprised if he got knocked out, to be honest with you. I just think that the Ukrainian is savvy enough to finish the fight on his feet and get his hand raised in the end. I think he's going to win a decision.
Yeah, I like Circassian. Is that how you pronounce it?
Circassian, I think.
Circassian as well here by decision. And this is a huge opportunity for him. In this middleweight division, a win here would mean a lot and put him in the mix for some big fights in 2023. Now, it's time to bring in our first guest, one of the hottest prospects in the game, an undefeated 22-year-old currently campaigning at super welterweight, representing Capitol Heights, Maryland, Travon Marshall. Travon, first things first, we were expecting you to fight on the Wilder Helenius undercard. That was the word, but apparently you suffered an injury. Can you shed some light on what happened for the fans?
Yeah, I had an injury on my shoulder, not doing what I was supposed to do, like doing the proper stretching and stuff, and just going into sparring. So I kind of pulled my shoulder out, but now.
Okay, that's good to hear. Now, your original opponent, I heard, was talking a little smack, saying you might have ducked him or something like that. Did you hear anything like that?
Yeah, I heard it.
What'd you think?
I heard it. But, I honestly still wanted to fight, but they was like, man, we ain't taking no chances. You're not 100%. Then, we'll catch him. We'll catch him down the line. It's no worry to, take that chance.
Sure.
So, Travon, I just want to be clear. So you feel like you're 100% healthy now, 100% back?
Yes, sir.
Very good. That's good to hear. So you've had 6 pro fights. Obviously, fighters learn a lot earlier in their careers. Tell us what lessons you've learned so far. What stands out?
Patience and actually looking for shots instead of just going out there fighting. Actually showing that I'm a professional.
Excellent. Okay.
That's good stuff. Now, for those who haven't seen you fight, how would you describe, your style? Is it similar to any of the stars in the sport, or?
I say not really, but a lot of people compare me to Jamel Charlo.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Are you a fan of his, or?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I would love to definitely soon get the invite to camp, or actually get to share the ring with him soon.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. But you're from Capitol Heights, Maryland, which is a hotbed for boxing. The Russell family is also from Capitol Heights. So I wanted to know, was there like do you guys know each other? Is there a rivalry, or?
No rivalry. We're actually good friends. I go over there and get sparring with Antoine when I need it. So no, it's all love.
What's that sparring like?
Oh, it's great sparring. Olympian, pressure, letting his hands go. It's definitely pay to see that sparring session.
Wow.
I'm a big fan of Antoine. How good do you think he is?
I think he's pretty good. I think soon, hopefully next year, he get his title shot.
There you go. So tell us, obviously, fans are just starting to get to know you. Tell us how you first got involved in boxing.
I've been around the boxing community since I was about 9 or 10 years old. Actually started in the basement with my uncle and grandfather. So that's how I got introduced to it. I had my first fight when I was 12 years old, and then just stuck with it from there.
So it sounds like you started so young that you didn't really do other sports, or did you do other sports?
I actually did. I actually played football. Was pretty good at that.
Oh.
And I had hurt my ankle. So my family was like, nah, we're gonna cut that out because the sport you really gonna take off with is with boxing. So we strictly stuck with boxing after that.
So this is the first time I've ever heard that boxing is like the safer sport than the other one. So. Okay. You had a short amateur career. So did you get a late start in the amateurs, or were you just ready to turn pro, eager to turn pro? How did that happen?
I mean, I never really had the Olympic dream. My trainer, Andrew Council, he really doesn't believe in the whole, you need to take the Olympic route and all these amateur fights, because he didn't have it, and he was a contender. Yeah. So, and it's really just all on the fighter. It's really on the fighter and the work he's putting in, the dedication.
Yeah, I agree with that. So you come from a fighting family? Is that where your background is?
Kind of, sorta. kind of, sorta. My uncle actually used to do it, but he didn't stick with it. So, it was all on me after that.
Gotcha. Now, you're only 22, but you do have a maturity to your style. Aside from Gary Antoine, are there any other fighters that you've sparred, notable names that you've been in the ring with?
Jared Swift-Hurd.
Okay.
Julian J. Rock Williams.
Wow.
Tyrone Davis. Robert Easter.
Wow.
You've been in a lot of camps. Wow.
Cordell Booker from New York.
Yep.
That's about it.
Now, your trainer, you mentioned Andrew Council. He's a longtime contender at both 154 and 160. What has it been like to work with him?
Excuse me, say that again?
I said your trainer, Andrew Council, you mentioned earlier, he was a longtime contender at 154 and 160. What has it been like to work with him?
Man, it's been great. I just can't wait to see what the future holds, because it's still early in my career. Like you guys said, there's a maturity about me, and I'll say a lot of that came from him, because before I was like not all over the place, but I would do a lot of unnecessary movements. And like he says, a lot of that could drain your energy. It's all that is unnecessary. So he teaches us like just believing in yourself and your defense.
Does he give you like advice on like a approach to boxing, lifestyle, that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah. You, like he said, you gotta live it. You gotta want it for yourself before other people can want it for you.
Right.
Very good. Sounds like you're learning good lessons. So finally, I know you're taking it a step at a time, but I'm sure you think about what you want to accomplish in this sport. Tell us what you'd like to accomplish in boxing.
I would like to become a prize fighter. I would like to have belts at 47, 54, 60, 68.
Oh.
I would also like to go in the Hall of Fame. So, yeah.
Why aren't you thinking big? You're not thinking big enough. That's awesome. Yeah, it's not going to happen if you don't believe in yourself. And it sounds like you believe in yourself, Travon.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Well, listen, thanks so much for spending this time with us. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, and we look forward to talking again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Time for Mike and I to go toe-to-toe this week. The topic is 5 PBC fights we want to see in 2023. This was a fun exercise. We had to get real creative with it. We're going to go in ascending order, of course. So, Mike, take it away.
I guess we should mention that it wasn't strictly PBC fighters that were allowing one or two guys the possibility of joining the party. So you'll see as we go, I guess. So my number 5 is Jaron Ennis versus a major opponent. This is actually similar to what we did a few weeks ago. I'm just dying to see Ennis. First of all, Ennis might be my favorite fighter in the world. So I want to see him in a big fight. So I'm just hoping that happens in 2023. I think it will. So now I'm hoping maybe fight somebody like a Keith Thurman or a Stanionis or Yordenis Ugas, or even if it's possible, I could throw in outside guys like a Virgil Ortiz. But anyway, I just want a big fight for him because I want to see. It seems to me he could be the best fighter in the world. I need to see that. So yeah, I just want to see him in a big fight. I want to see him in a main event and on a large stage, and I'm hoping it happens next year.
Yeah, me too. I'd love to see him against any of those guys. Rashidi Ellis is also someone I consider. Against Boots, I love the Stanionis fight. That's a great fight. Stanionis versus anybody is a great fight. So hopefully, I think we're definitely going to see Jaron Boots Ennis get a big step up fight in 2023. Now, Yeah, I believe it will. I think it's time. Now, my number 5 involves two of the most skilled boxers in the game. The former longtime featherweight champion Gary Russell Jr. and the current undefeated unified super bantamweight champion Stephen Fulton. Russell's currently on the mend, but once he's healthy, let's make this fight happen. I mean, I think this would be breathtaking to watch. A difficult style matchup for both guys, but my mouth is watering just thinking about it. Two guys who can fight on the outside, fight on the inside, are athletic, well schooled, great ring IQs, and one guy in Russell who's hungry to get back to where he was, and another guy in Fulton who the young Fulton who's eager to show that he is one of the best fighters in the world today, as he's proven thus far. I mean, it's a dream for me to see these guys get in the ring together.
Yeah, I can't think of many other matchups where the combined skill level would be higher than that fight. Those guys are two of the best, guys in the world in terms of their skill set.
Yeah.
It would be a really interesting chess match. And you know what? Sometimes when you pit boxers against one another, it isn't a chess match. It ends up being something even wilder than that. So yeah, I love that matchup too.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to number 4. I'll kick this one off with a fight we're probably going to get into a little more in a little bit, and that's David Benavidez versus David Morrell, the two King Davids battling each other. Benavidez, the unbeaten 2-time super middleweight champion, and Morrell, the current undefeated 168-pound titleist. These are two supremely confident fighters. There's already been a lot of trash talk between the two. I'd love to see them settle the score. Obviously, Morrell has a big test in front of him this Saturday, but if he's able to get past that, look impressive. I mean, look, he says he wants it. Benavidez says he'll take it. This is a fight I'd love to see in 2023.
Man, imagine fighting David Benavidez with 8 pro fights under your belt.
Insane.
Morrell's got, it seems pretty obvious to me, he's got the skill, and I think he's got heavy hands. I think he hurts people too. He doesn't have that experience in like big professional fights, obviously, and that would be huge. So talent for talent, it's a good matchup. I would just be curious to see how Morrell would do in that fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that fight too.
What you got for number 4?
My number 4 is Deontay Wilder versus Frank Sanchez. I know everyone is talking about a Wilder-Andy Ruiz matchup. For obvious reasons, I like that fight too. I'm just more intrigued with the possibility of Wilder versus Sanchez. Wilder is Wilder. We know what we're going to get. A heat-seeking missile of a right hand and ton of experience and better boxing skills than people give him credit for. I should say that every time I talk about Wilder. Sanchez has elite boxing ability, the kind of ability that could give Wilder problems. Remember, Sanchez was, cut his teeth in the Cuban amateur system, so he has that foundation. I think that if Sanchez would box carefully and not get hit, which I know is an enormous if, because almost everybody Wilder fights gets hit with a big shot at some point, I think Sanchez would have a chance to score an upset. I would absolutely love to see that fight. It's just a fascinating matchup to me.
It would be. And, it's interesting. Wilder is pretty athletic himself, doesn't always use it in terms of movement in the ring, but we did see some against Robert Helenius in his last fight for as long as it lasted. But
good athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. If he's able to use that, we've got a really interesting battle on our hands there. I like the fight. I'm sure Sanchez would be chomping at the bit to get a shot at Deontay Wilder, and we'll see if he can handle someone at that level. Let's go to number 3. Who you got?
Number 3 for me is Leo Santa Cruz versus Brandon Figueroa.
Oof.
So for me, this is just a fun matchup between two guys who don't know how to take a backward step, which I think would make for some crazy action in this fight. And the fact that it would be a big fight, really important fight for both guys, I think would add to the intensity. Figueroa wants to get a title shot at 126, and he's pretty close. This would sort of seal the deal, I think. Well, actually, Leo is a title holder, right? So it would be his title shot. On top, I didn't even mention that. On top of everything else, it would be his title shot. And Santa Cruz hasn't had a big win for quite some time now. I'm sure he wants to prove that he's still at or near the top of his game. If you add all that up, I think you get just a great matchup. That's like a can't miss fun fight to watch.
Yeah, seriously. I hadn't thought about that, but that's a really thoughtful, fan-friendly kind of match.
Absolutely.
Um, Santa Cruz with his experience, his skill set, and his heart, going up against a monster in Figueroa. I would love to see that as well. Man, I hope we get some of these fights in 2020.
I always get so excited when we do these lists. I'm like, yeah, it gotta happen, and some happen, and a lot don't, and you're frustrated half the
Yeah.
time. But when they do, there's nothing better.
Yeah, it's sweet. I'd love to see that one. Now my number 3 is another fight that, boy, what can you say about this? Caleb Plant versus Jermall Charlo. Charlo, 2-division world champion, Plant, the former 168-pound champion. This might have the best buildup of them all. I mean, if you thought Plant Durrell was crazy, wait till you see these guys start jawing at the press conferences. I think these two are on a collision course, assuming Benavidez fights Morrell. I mean, this is all my guesswork, moving fights around on my imaginary whiteboard in my head. But if Benavidez does fight Morrell, I'd love to see Caleb Plant take on Jermall Charlo, assuming Charlo goes up to 168. These guys have plenty of options, but I really want to see them match their wits, their skill, their power shots, and see who talks the most trash too in the buildup.
Right. I really like that matchup for several reasons. I think that Charlo's probably a better all-around fighter, but and there's two things I want to mention. But he is moving up in weight, which is a little bit of an equalizer. I think that's 8-pound difference. And look what Plant did in his last fight. He really gave us a spectacular knockout. So I think his stock went up in that fight. So I think it's essentially a 50-50 fight when you factor everything in. Love that fight.
Not to mention the battle of the trainers. Plant's trainer Stephen Breadman Edwards against Charlo's trainer Ronnie Shields. I mean, two great boxing minds, two guys we love having on the show. I would love to see this. Let's. Did you do your number 3, or is it we're up to number 2 now, right?
We're up to number 2.
All right, I'll kick this one off. My number 2 is Errol Spence Jr. versus Brian Castano. Spence, the unified welterweight champion. Castano, of course, the former super welterweight champion. Look, Spence versus Terrence Crawford may still happen in 2023. Maybe it even happens at 154. I don't know, but I do expect Errol Spence to move up at some point next year. And if he were to take on someone like Brian Castano, goodness gracious. I mean, the two have a history. They fought in the amateurs. Both are enjoying successful pro careers, and both are warriors inside the square circle. I could see this turning into a war and a fight of the year candidate. I mean, who wouldn't want to see this?
Yeah, I never even once thought of that possibility. That's a really interesting matchup. My first thought was it's like Castano's just going to, walk straight into a buzzsaw. But I think he's probably too good for that. I think he's too clever for that. Maybe it's a little bit like Porter and Spence. Porter's a pretty aggressive guy, comes to fight, pushes the action. It could be similar to that. Listen, Castano could fight anybody. It'd be a fun fight to watch. Put him in the ring with Spence in a fight of that magnitude. That would be something.
Yeah, it sure would. All right, what you got for number 2?
So my number 2 is Jermell Charlo, who I also felt I needed to get on this list, versus Sebastian Fundora.
Ooh, boy.
I think Charlo is clearly the best 154-pounder right now, which means I'd pick him to beat, anyone else, at or even near the weight probably. That said, I think Charlo versus Fundora would just be a blast. They're both really fun. They're both really fun to watch. Charlo, has that all-around game, and fight-ending power on top of that. And Fundora can beat you in more ways than one. He likes to fight inside in spite of his height, and he's dangerous in there. He is. As illogical as it seems, he's just really dangerous, even though he's 6'5+. And we saw him use his length more than ever in his last fight. So he's becoming maybe a little bit more versatile. He did give Charlo problems. That's a great matchup.
Yeah, his dimensions alone, would give Charlo problems. Of course, though, Jermell is just such a special fighter, and standing in front of Jermell Charlo and fighting is suicide. But then again, you're talking about a 6'5", gangly yet super durable, strong, powerful guy in Fundura. It's another fight of the year candidate. All these are fight of the year candidates if if we see them take place. Let's move on to number one. What you got?
So my number one, so it's at the risk of being repetitive, it's just really the fight that I want to see, maybe more than any other fight. Certainly among my top three in all of boxing. Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez. This is the fight as far as I'm concerned. It's a big fight because of Alvarez's status and the way Benavidez is perceived, which is why why it was on my best fights list that we did a few weeks ago. But it's also a fans fight. Alvarez is Alvarez. He's still the most compelling fighter in the world, in my opinion. And Benavidez is just an absolute freaking beast, if there ever was one. A big, strong guy with quick hands who throws hard punches and bunches. He doesn't mess around at all. And I think he's a real, genuine threat to Alvarez, which adds to the intrigue in this potential matchup. I think he might dominate Alvarez more than Bivol did, although they have completely different styles. This is a fight I really hope happens because it should happen.
Yeah, and that fight could potentially be the biggest fight in boxing. Two great warriors, champions of Mexican descent. Benavidez, a rising star. Canelo, obviously, arguably the biggest star in the sport. And I'm with you. I mean, the matchup is fantastic. Look, Canelo has shown some stamina issues in the past. He certainly showed it against both Golovkin in his last fight and against Bivol, while Benavidez is a volume puncher, very strong, great size, power, quick, punches and combinations, does not give you a chance to rest in there. I mean, look, there will be countering opportunities for Canelo in that fight, but if he's unable to put this guy away, he may find himself in a situation he has never encountered before as a professional.
I really want to see that.
Yeah, fight. It's just a great fight, and hopefully we get it. Look, I mean, Benavidez has fought like 1,800 title eliminators, as you told him last time we had him on, and now holds the interim WBC title. Canelo, of course, has the WBC belt, so I feel it's only a matter of time before Benavidez gets that fight.
Canelo, make it happen.
Yeah, for real, man. Let's get it on. It's a fight we folks want to see. I know Canelo's getting a little tired of folks asking him about Benavidez. Well, then do something about it. My number one is the battle of the DMV. Folks have talked about Gervonta Tank Davis versus Gary Russell Jr., but what about Gervonta Tank Davis versus Gary Antoine Russell? I mean, you can do it at 135, 140, or at a catch weight. Put it in the biggest arena in the DMV area and watch the fireworks. These are two fast, athletic, skilled, hard-hitting southpaws with plenty of dog in them. We know it's going to end in a knockout. And look, I think this could be one for the history books. I hope this fight happens, and I believe it will, hopefully sooner rather than later.
I think hardcore fans will understand why you selected that fight. They're actually, I never even thought about this till this second, but they're actually similar in a way. They're both good boxers. I'm not sure anybody's really a better boxer than Davis, but I respect Russell a lot in terms of his skill set. They both are responsibly aggressive, and they both can take you out, at any time. Yeah. So they actually have similar styles that I think would match up really well. I guess Davis would have the edge with experience in big fights. Gary Antoine hasn't been there, but yeah, that's a really fun matchup.
Oh yeah, it's a great matchup. All of these were great matchups. Hopefully we see a few next year. I'll take a couple of these next year, and we'll see what happens. Now, it's time to bring in our next guest. We were just talking about him. He's going to put his undefeated record and the WBA 168-pound title on the line this Saturday as he takes on Aidos Yerbossynuly at the Armory in Minneapolis, live on Showtime. David Morrell Jr. David, first question. That was a really fun press conference. You guys trash talking a bit. What did you make of the back and forth?
It's my plan. Like every time, todo el tiempo siempre me estoy divirtiendo, me estoy riendo. Siempre, nunca tengo momentos así que, incluso hasta cuando estoy algo mal, siempre trato de buscar la parte ¿sabes? Funny, ¿no? Pero, ¿sabes? En mi juego. Pero nada, sí, estuvo bastante interesante.
Yeah, like it was interesting to say the least. You know, life is too short to not have fun, and you know, I like to have fun with these kind of things as long as you know it's respectful, and you know, it was a fun little back and forth that we had, and it makes it more exciting, not just for us but for the fans as well.
What can you tell us about your opponent, Aidos Yerbossynuly? What do you know about him?
Lo único is good. Is good boxing. Is a boxer. Is a strong boxer, but I know Morrell. I mean, no sé mucho de él. Un buen boxeador, bastante, por lo que pude ver, tiene bastante calidad, pero no le veo las características suficientes como para ganarme. Lo respeto porque like, se ve que es un boxeador que tiene bastante experiencia, pero no le veo las características.
Look, I really don't know that much about him, but I can tell you that I do respect him because he has the experience and the toughness needed to where he needed to get to face me. But at the same time, I can tell you that I don't see him having the chops to be able to beat me.
David, the super middleweight division obviously is a stacked division. Could you list your top 5 168 pounders, including yourself, if you wish?
Okay, for me, number 5, the 168, right? Is what is the name of my opponent? Aidos.
Aidos.
Yeah, number 5, Aidos. Number 4, the Rare. Number 3, like for me, not for fight for nothing. So for me, number 3, Kenneth, Benavidez, and Canelo. Me, yeah, number 0. Like,
Okay, that's a good list. So you mentioned Plant. We recently saw Plant stop Anthony Durrell in 9 rounds. Did you watch that fight? And if so, what were your thoughts on Plant's performance?
no, he's the real is old man. The real is old man. Like, got experience, got a technique, got everything, bro. Like, Kenneth is more technical. The real is more fast. The real. So, Kenneth got like this fight is Kenneth got everything. You know what I mean? For the winner, the red, but no. Before the fight, my prognostic is Kenneth, you know, but like no for knockout, but like the future is unpredictable.
Is Plant someone that you're interested in facing?
Yeah, of course.
I like it very much.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, it's good boxing, man. I know. I ain't saying it's good boxing. He's got everything, like for got everything inside the ring. But I think in my mind, yeah, I think I'm the best.
I hear you. Now, there's been a lot of talk about you and David Benavidez. Benavidez says you do all the talking, but you are scared to fight him. What would you say in response to that?
Hey, man, like, it's bullshit. Like, the first time I called the David Benavidez, hey, man, I want to fight. No. Long time. The big balls for the more money, blah 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 blah. Like, right now, like you call me, the ham called me like 1 month before the fight. So what the hell? You know what I mean? So like it's crazy, man. It's no tiene sentido lo que está diciendo. So, cuando lo llamé, no dijeron que no, que una bolsa más grande. Entonces me quieren llamar a mí ya un mes o 15 días antes de la pelea. So, no tiene sentido lo que están haciendo. Pero anyways, esa pelea va a venir porque va a venir, y y la estamos esperando, estamos ready, la estamos esperando. Estamos enfocados 100% en esta pelea que viene ahora. Y ya, simplemente cuando es el momento de mostrarle a David Benavidez, a ver si está aquí, como dice, es que le teníamos miedo o lo que está diciendo por ahí.
What David Benavidez and his team are saying doesn't make any sense at all. When I reached out to them, they were like, no, we want a bigger purse. And now they're saying that I'm scared. That doesn't really make sense. It's on them, not on me, if anything. First of all, let's tackle this fight on November 5th. We can't overlook this fight. No way, no how. But once we get past this, the fight against David Benavidez is not just going to happen. It's inevitable. So once the time comes, he will just see how ready I am, and I'll show him how quote unquote scared I am of him, because he's gonna be in for a big surprise.
Love it. So you're the WBA regular title holder directly below Canelo right now. That matchup is also a possibility for you. How do you feel about meeting him in the ring?
La verdad, primero que todo, súper agradecido con él por darme la oportunidad, por reconocerme como un oponente. Y la segunda, súper que contento, ¿no? Porque voy a mostrar de verdad quién se demostraría en esa pelea quién es el mejor entre los dos y quién está al máximo nivel o quién está al 100.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for considering me, to be at that level where I can go up against Canelo. Much appreciated. And then, nothing but respect for Canelo. It will be very exciting to be able to go up against him and seeing who is the best of the two, mano a mano, and to be able to step up to a challenge will be a huge honor for me.
We watched him lose to Dimitri Bivol in his last fight. Do you believe he's more vulnerable now than he used to be?
No. Una derrota no significa nada, y mucho menos para un boxeador como Canelo. So, no pienso que sea algo que lo haya derribado.
No, not at all, because one loss doesn't define you and doesn't mean anything, especially for a fighter of the caliber of Canelo. Just as he fell down, he got up and he redeemed himself, and I don't see him being any more vulnerable than he was before.
So, assuming you get past Yerbossynuly and Plant and Benavidez aren't available, who would you like to fight?
Con Benavidez, con el que esté. Ya eso tendría que hablarlo con mi equipo de trabajo. So, no. Royal acaba de terminar su pelea. Canelo no va a estar disponible por un buen tiempo. So, tenía que hablarse con mi equipo de trabajo.
I would really have to talk about it with my team, because that would put me in a bind. If Plant is not available, if Benavidez ducks me again, and then Dirrell, I don't think that would be a possibility at the moment. And then Canelo is going to be out for a while apparently. So I would really have to sit down with my team and figure out what the next step will be. But I really want Benavidez. That's my goal. I don't think of anything other than that.
Now, this will be another camp with Ronnie Shields. Can you tell us what training with him is like and training in Texas?
Super nice. Super nice. Different rivers and different everything. I'm feel happy, man. I feel good.
Good.
What has Ronnie taught you that stands out to you?
Primera, la primera que me enseñó fue el tener confianza en mí, o sea, el entrenador tener confianza en el atleta. También tácticas que normalmente yo pocas veces las hacía en las peleas. O sea, las hacía, pero no tan repetitivas como en las últimas horas que tuve con él. Y me ha ayudado mucho con lo que es la defensa también.
Well, Shields has really helped me in a variety of ways, and I'm really fond of him. The first thing that he did for me, which was really important, was he showed me that he believed in me. And that kind of confidence from the trainer to the fighter, it's priceless. And it was the kind of confidence in my abilities that I hadn't experienced before. The second one was to be consistent with my strategy in a tactical fashion, to where I would use certain strategies before, but I would never repeat them as much. I would never be as consistent. So he drilled it in me to repeat some to repeat some things is a good thing. And then the other part of it was the defense, to improve the defense and to make it a focal point of my preparation.
So that leads me to my next question. So you've progressed rapidly as a professional because of your amateur experience. You've been fast-tracked, so to speak. Still, you've only had 7 pro fights. I imagine that you're still not as good as you're going to be as a professional fighter. How close do you think you are to being at your very best?
No, creo que todavía me falta mucho. Me falta mucho y lo voy adquiriendo poco a poco, ¿no? Con cada experiencia que va tomando en cada momento. Pienso que todavía me falta bastante camino por recorrer, pero es lo más importante y lo más lindo de esto, ¿no? Que puedes aprender muchas cosas nuevas y puedes seguir construyendo. Y es lo que primero digo, voy a seguir haciendo.
I have a long ways to go. I'm far, far away from my ceiling, because I feel like I have so many new things to learn, so many things to absorb, that I'm excited to be able to continue getting better. And God willing, I'm going to be able to. But, I never close the book on learning. I never close the book on being able to mature both as a person and as a fighter. And I want to keep on getting better. The ceiling is always going to keep getting higher for me.
Mi meta no es ganar todos los cinturones ni ganar a todo el mundo. Mi meta es convertirme en leyenda, ¿entiendes? Y hasta que no logre eso, pienso que no voy a llegar al top en lo que es el mundo del boxeo. Porque en el mundo de la vida nunca se llega hasta el final.
Life is a journey, and it never really has a finishing point. You keep going, and you know what my goal is? It's not to become the undisputed champion, to get all the belts. No, it's to become a legend, to go and surpass everything that I can imagine, and to reach heights that very few people have been able to reach.
What would you say is the hardest part about being a professional boxer?
Bueno, la parte más difícil es el no tener no tienes días. O sea, no tienes un día que tú... No es como que trabajas por ahí, por ejemplo, ahora viene Halloween y todo el mundo está en Halloween, todo el mundo está festejando, todo el mundo está en algo y uno tiene que estar entrenando. O sea, no tienes un día, no tienes días festivos. So, nada más puedes tomar tus días cuando estés de vacaciones, y con eso tienes que estar trabajando porque nunca sabes cómo te van a llamar. So, yo digo que es la parte más difícil, ¿no? de boxeador profesional.
The hardest thing is the things that you have to sacrifice and put aside in order to be successful as a pro. Let's say, for example, Halloween next week, right? Would love to go to a costume party, but that's not possible because I gotta be focused on what I have to do and to be able to be successful on November 5th. And it's something that I have to let go of, where my friends and my family, they go and have fun. And it's part of the deal, to where you, unless you're on vacation, you always have to be on the job and being willing and able to do what it takes to be successful.
Anyways, Halloween no es la fecha más importante, pero el año pasado, antes pasado, yo estuve el 24 de diciembre, Nochebuena creo que es, entrenando para una pelea que tiene el 27, ¿sabes? No tiene fecha, no tiene día festivo. O sea, el día que te toca la pelea, te tocó. Si no te tocó, felicidades. Si te tocó, bueno, a pelear.
Another example of something that I had to sacrifice. It was either last year or the year before that it was Christmas Eve, and I had to be training for an upcoming fight. So it's the path that I chose, the path that one chooses as a professional athlete. And if you're lucky enough to have those days off, then great. But if you don't, then you make the choice to let go of those things in order to achieve greater heights.
Last question for you, David. What can we expect to see from you on November 5th?
Van a ver perdón, sorry. Yo creo que van a ver una de las mejores visiones de mí, ya que hace rato, hace mucho tiempo, no hacemos el plan de trabajo que tenemos pensado ahora. Y yo voy a demostrar el tipo de boxeador que soy, voy a demostrar que me merezco la oportunidad que me están dando mi equipo de trabajo y me están dando SHOWTIME en PBC. So, creo que voy a dar lo mejor de mí. Y como siempre digo, esperen lo mejor y mucha sonrisa y mucha alegría.
You can expect a lot of happiness, inside the ring. I'm going to put a smile on everybody's face. And I'm going to show everybody that the opportunities that both SHOWTIME and PBC give me are not for naught, that I can be I can be up to the challenge, and that the confidence that my team, SHOWTIME, PBC, everybody puts in me is well warranted, and that you're going to see the best version of David Morrell on November 5th. Excellent, David. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, sir.
We wish you the best on November 5th, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this week's show. We want to thank David Morrell Jr. and Travon Marshall for joining us. Don't forget, guys, Morrell this Saturday night defends his WBA title against Aidos Yerbossynuly live on SHOWTIME. Of course, we'll be back next week to break down all the action from that card, have more interviews, plus more boxing banner right here on the PBC Podcast.